What's up guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I am using Gcode Generator in Corel Draw with sound, yes, sound instructions. So David, the creator of this awesome software, has some videos showing the main functions, but in this one I want to go into the details of how I've managed to set it up. So first of all, what am I working with? This is Corel Draw 2020. I'm actually on an older Windows it's a very old machine. I think this is Windows 7 and it's still running good. I have the Gcode Generator 2.44, which is the latest version. One thing I did notice right after installing it is that if your resolution is not high enough, chances are that you may only see from here properties all the way down to maybe like about here, but you're gonna miss this history scripts hints, and of course you're gonna miss the Gcode Generator. It won't show on your screen, but it is there. So if you're installing it and it's not showing up on your screen, it's because of that. Just go to Window, Dockers, and then go to the lowest one, and then use the arrow keys to get all the way down there. If you click and you move the properties, then well, actually you could do that. They go there and then just go one up and hit enter, and it'll show the Gcode Generator. But the better thing is just to change the resolution so it's high enough, because this will not display properly at all the other resolutions. Alright, so after you've installed it, first thing you will notice is that this thing is built with two profiles. Well, actually just one. There's the blank, which is how it comes, and then there's the default XYZ. I'll go into detail as to what those do later, but for now, know that this is the section where you can create and make your own profiles that will save information and will save you time in skipping some of the steps. So let me also show you what I'm working with. I am on a I have a Advantage Router 600 with a big table that's 80 by 120 inches, so it's fairly big, and I refurbished this machine with the Planet CNC software and the controller as well. So that's what I have right now, and that's what I'm gonna show you. So after you've installed the Gcode Generator, I recommend you start here with the default XYZ, right? Then these dimensions right here, when you create a new document in Corel Draw, you'll notice that the page size is 8.5 by 11. This thing also controls that page size. What I recommend is that you make it the size of your table. So mine, as I said, was 80 inches by 120. Now I'm standing right in front of the machine, and my machine is oriented, my table, the same way as I see the paper. So X is going this way and Y is going up and down. So that really helps. Next thing, you can set how you want your 0 point to be. My 0 point on my machine is right here. So basically that's my 0 point. So that's what this is. You could change it, but I recommend you leave it here. Now, toolpaths. This thing is equipped with different capabilities. Each one of these can take any path. For example, I'm going to put a small circle right here, and by me placing it right here, that's where it's going to cut it in reference to the table, which is now the page. Then I'm generally, or at the beginning, I was using this function right here because basically we're a sign company and we just cut backs for signs. We don't do a lot of 3D at all, actually. So this is the function that you would normally use. However, as of today, it has a bug where, okay, see, let's go back right here. First, you need to select a profile. So I'm going to pick this one, the XYZ, right here, and then select your path, then click on this. And as I said, this one has a bug right now, and that bug is that it hasn't been fixed so that you can set your 0 on the z-axis to be the table, Right now, it works very well if you want to set the top of the material as the 0. You can see in the instructions, nah, it's not there anymore. Well, anyways, the top of the material is your Z, 0, and that's how it's meant to work. I've already spoken with the developer. They're working on fixing that, but the workaround in the meantime is to actually use the laser function. So let's go ahead and do that. If you select the laser function, which is this one, you will still have a chance to choose different tool bits with different settings. So for me, honestly, I think this was the better setup because it has less parameters to input and it's much easier. So the first thing it's going to ask you is what tool you want to put. Well, actually the name. This you can change to anything. You can put like, I'm going to put my name in there, and then, but you can put whatever. Then that name is going to show up right here. So if you're doing multiple layers or multiple things, you know which one's which. So let's call this one cut 1. Over here, there's the drop down with all the different tools that you may have and their feed rates, etc. Here you select them, but over here you can configure them. So on my old program, which was this guy, you can see I had several. They called it templates back then, right? And each one of these had different feed speeds, plunge speeds, etc. So the equivalent of that is on this screen right here. Once you click here, you can set up add all your materials right here. I think at the moment it doesn't sort them alphabetically or anything, but you can save them. You don't have to put tool numbers here. Like, you can if you want to, but you can actually put like 2 or 2. There is a tool number selection here that you can input. For me, I just find it easier to just put the material. So notice that it's not just the tool bit. It's you can put here the tool bit information here, but also the feed rate that can change, because for example, I could use the same tool for different materials. I have this one here for aluminum, but for plastic I may want to cut a little faster or slower. So here's what you can input. This is the diameter of your bit. This is the cutting length, the CEL, the cutting length of your bit, the maximum cutting length. This path spacing is if you're gonna have to carve something out. I believe this is like the increment in which you want to advance. I'm not 100% sure. Haven't played with this. I don't use this function a lot, but it makes sense that this is what it would be. Feed rate, this is how fast you want your router to move. The plunge rate is how fast the Z-axis is gonna go down. And then spindle speed, I don't have a spindle, I just have a router, like a manual router. So if you have a spindle connected, this is where you would send the speed parameter to your machine. Anyways, so now the cool thing about this program, this program doesn't assign it doesn't assign female or male cuts. They call them right, which would be like a male equivalent, and then a left, which would be a female, and then a middle, which is right around the middle. This tool right here lets you see the cut, so I'm actually going to zoom in so you can see it. Unfortunately, you cannot move while you have that dialog box open. So when you click right here, I can edit. If you double click it, nothing happens. You have to right click to edit. Once you do edit, it'll open it back up, and you can see right here, that's what this thing shows right here. It says to the right, it says to the left, and I think, okay, this is misleading. Let me correct something, because I drew a circle with a black outline, and notice that this is the vector that has the that I created. This one I cannot move because it's basically this guy. It's being represented by here. I can only delete it. But watch what happens. If I click on it, I want it to go to the right, show tool diameter. Boom. See, that shows the diameter based on whatever settings I had here. So it's going to show a diameter of 1.888. Contour allowance, I haven't had a need to move it or to play with that. Safety height is how high you want your router bit to float between cuts. So for me, in this case, I want it to be, let's say, like 1 inch. And then the cutting height is, should actually be more like a cutting depth. Now, as I said, in my case, what I want is to set the table to 0, so that way I don't have to be calibrating each material. I'm always calibrated to the table, so my z-axis is configured to be 0 at the top of the table. Therefore, my cutting height is going to be 0. And that's it. That's why I like the laser water configuration instead of the other one, because it's more simple. So I'm going to click OK, and you're going to see that it already spit out the well, it hasn't spit out. After that, you have to click on this guy right here, and once you do that, say generates a preview of what it's going to look like. Now I have set up Planet CNC to communicate directly with Gcode Generator in a really cool way. So there's several ways you can get your Gcode into Planet CNC, but by far my favorite is what I'm going to show you right now. As soon as I press this button, Gcode Generator is configured to spit out that Gcode into a file named job that tap right here inside of this folder. This is the installation folder of the Gcode Generator. So this folder, it's always gonna, this file's always gonna be called job tap. So I'm not gonna open it because there's an even better way to do this. If you go to the settings, I have it set up where I open the last file to Alt O. So watch this. All I have to do is press Alt O and watch how the Gcode is gonna change. Boom. Okay, I guess it was the same before, but let me show you so you can see the beauty of this. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of this. Okay, let's do a little pentagon. So here's my pentagon. I'm gonna click on that. Aluminum outside. Safety height 1. Cutting to 0. Okay. Boom. I press that. It already generated it. Go to Planet CNC. Alt O. And alright. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but it does work. It's just that I'm working a little bit outside of my parameters, but let me show you the other cool ways of doing it. If you click on show Gcode, you can take this, copy it, and just paste directly into Planet CNC. So I'm going to file close that. The other way is you can obviously export the file by using this button, save as. You can name it whatever you want, and you can change the location. So I generally like to keep the same location as it was before. So this is the file, the folder, the installation folder of Gcode Generator. So what you can do is just open files from there as well. Let me go here. Okay, so open, and then I can open any one of these. Boom, there it is. Okay, I think I see what's happening. There is the reason why it was not saving, or I was not able to do my little trick that I showed you, is because sometimes certain files save as a .nc and sometimes they save as a .tap. So that depends on the profile that you're using. I have Planet CNC, so because of that, I went into the Corel settings, and if you look, let's go talk about the profiles. You'll see that I have these two, so that right now is the perfect timing of it. I believe the default is set up to spit out .nc files. We can check that. If you go right here, you go to edit, you will see somewhere in here the file name. I'm pretty sure I saw it here. Well, maybe it wasn't here, it was somewhere else, but oh yeah, file extension right here. It's the first thing, NC. Now what I like to use is I'm sticking with Planet CNC. In fact, I'm going to disable that so that it only shows my two settings. In here you can see that if you go to edit, you'll see that the file extension is .tap. So that's why when I create here, if I click here and it generates the code, it's writing to the .tap file, this one right here. So just to be clear, I'm going to delete that one because that's for the default profile, and this is my only file. This is the only one that I'm going to be using. So watch the beauty of it now. If I have that file open, let's open it here. That's my job tab file. There it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my let's use the short bit profile, and I click here. I can just generate new, and then when I click on this guy right here, it should have already rewritten into that file, but because I have it open here, I need to reopen it. So I put Alt O, which was configured in the settings, and boom, there it is. Isn't that cool? You can save steps. You can pretty much customize any setting here. If you go to File, the way you get here is by going to File, Settings, and notice that I've assigned Control K, so that it just pops out. In fact, I'm gonna scroll down because these may be some of the shortcuts that you might find useful. Control W for closing. That one was not by default. I had to put that one. This one I think is for, yeah, I don't think that was default either. I had to add it. What else? Control K. Yeah, if you don't know, you can control your router table by using the arrow keys, but you have to press Control. So you can see right here, you can jog your machine using this. So I definitely come around here and add your shortcuts to customize your machine. Another really cool one is I put Control H for a home in order to create this the XY home. Whoops, sorry, my machine's off right now. I need to turn it on. Back to the generator. Earlier I was mentioning that I'm not using this carve feature because it has a bug right now. If you want to set up your table as a 0 point, but if you don't want to do that, it works perfectly fine. The way it works is you select a contour milling option. Same thing, you choose your router bit, if you want it outside or inside. Let's say I want to do a female cut now. Show the tool diameter, now it's on the inside. And now these numbers right here, you'll notice that they're gonna be populated by default, but the place you change that is on the profile. So right now, for example, let's say I would want to do like 1 well, let's say my safety height is 1, but my starting height, you would set it up as 0 if you are cutting with your table not as a 0 point. You want to put 0 here when your materials, the surface of your material is the top or the 0 point for your z-axis. And that way you can set the starting height, that's the top of your material, 0, and then you would put here the thickness of your material, which in this case, let's say if I'm cutting 1/2 inch PVC, I would put 0.5 here so that it cuts down PVC. That's actually a good example. It's kind of like what I have here. You can see I'm using just a rubber eraser right here as a test router bit to test, but you can see I have 1/2 inch PVC. You would set your 0 point at the top of the material, and then you tell it to go to 0, which, sorry, to go to minus 0.5. That's another important thing. I believe you have to have negative numbers here, so this would have to be negative 0.5. Now, the reason why I don't like using this, aside from the bug, is because if I were to do this, when I come to Planet CNC, I have my software limits where I don't want it to go below 0, right? And by having negative numbers, I believe this is the line number 12. Well, I removed my tool number, so yours might be like 16, line 16. But anyways, it's this one that says, notice that the first is the movement of the machine, then the Z lift for the safety height, and then this guy right here, if it's negative, it's gonna trigger an error right here. So that's why I don't like using this portion, I mean this section right here. But the contour milling works just as, sorry, the contour laser water works just as well. Now you can see, I don't know if you noticed earlier that it was doing two different, like it didn't take out the original male cut. I can turn it off right here, and you can see now the female is in the correct position. Now I have it in the, that's the female. I want it to be inside. See, that's the female cut. There. This one I can delete. And now this red, I believe, means that it's selected. That's all it means. And well, let's do that. If I click here, it's going to generate that's a female cut now. If I go over here, Alt O will open up the previews. I'm sorry, reopen the last file, and you can see now the operations changed right here. So now let's talk about profiles. Let's go here to Corel, and the reason why I have two profiles is that one profile is configured for my long bit. This is the exception. The one I use the most is this one, the short bit. I use the Baleen Y number 2700155. Let's see if I can find it for you. This is the router bit that I use the most. So I think it's 20. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. That's the lengthy code. The one I'm using is 33476. Great bit. Yep, this is the guy. So I call this one my short bit. I have it labeled as bit number 2. So let's see, to change the parameters, let's talk about here. If you go here into the contour milling, if I edit this contour milling, you'll see that there's safety height, plunge height, starting height, and final depth. You can change those so you don't have to put them by hand every time by going here and then going to your proper profile. So mine is the short bit, let's edit, and you'll go down to this section down here, and it's these guys right here: safety, height, plunge height, start height. Okay, I think okay, now those sections that I show you are for this guy, the contour milling. But if you're using the contour cutting, which is laser, notice that this guy only has two parameters: safety height and cutting height. Those two numbers are a little different. I have to take a screenshot to map it out, but you can see to the left, this is the profile. So your safety height is still the same as the contour milling, but the cutting height for the laser is this one. So you can see right here if you click here, it'll pop up the laser option, and you can see those two right there and exactly where they come from. If you were to click here, it will show you more options, such as the plunge height, the start height, although I think the plunge height, sometimes they call it different names. But anyways, I think that's basically it. The last thing that I want to mention is that what is the difference between these buttons here and these buttons down here? Well, I'm not 100% sure, but for most of your cuts, you're gonna have to you're probably gonna be using this. These buttons right here are, I think, once you get better at defining your profiles, you can have your profiles generate you can have these buttons generate G-code faster. But if you're doing science like me, and you're more than likely gonna have to configure different materials in here with different feed rates, etc. But if you're only cutting the same thing every time, you could probably take advantage of these guys. So for example, let's take a look at the difference. This one kind of sort of matches this one, right? So if you click here, which is this one that we did, look at the parameters that you get. You get to choose a router bit, and the feed rate is going to be driven from whatever you chose here. See, your feed rate is right here. Your speed and plunge comes from there. Now, if you click here though, you don't even need to apply this. The way that these guys work down there is that you just select your shape, you don't do anything here, and then you click here, and it's gonna create G-code. In fact, let me change it so you'll see a different shape down there that it is working. I'll do a small circle, so that way when it spits out the G-code, you know it did it for the circle and not for that old one. So if you click in here, you can just put the parameters that you want, kind of like customize it, right? But notice that it's bringing in the numbers from the profile. Right now it's using the some of the settings from right here. So if you click in here, and let's say you're always using the same settings, you would just essentially click OK, and then boom, it already created. With one click, 2 clicks, you can create the G-code that you needed. So that's what those are for. And then this one would give you options for engraving, etc., and so on. This one I haven't messed around with too much, but I think for the most part this gives you a glimpse of what the Gcode generator can do for you.